make it look.
What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we've got new cards.
I was just telling you my thing. What is up, dudes and lady dudes? How did I do it?
We've got new cards for Lightning Overdrive. This was unexpected, but I was hanging out with my boy, Jimbo Slice is what we call him here.
Yeah. We've been waiting for the second one, but it hasn't showed up as of yet.
Right.
So we're gonna go over the first.
Yeah, your organization said they'll post the rest when it comes. There should be about 5 or 6 more cards after this, but we're gonna talk about these because these came out like 2 hours ago. I mean, I was waiting for them because I figured they would come out right after. They didn't, so I'm like, let's just make the video. We'll make the other one later on. We'll talk about that when it comes. So let's jump into it. No more wasting time. The first card is real quick. Let's get to some artwork real quick. Take a look at this. All right, see that there? We've got our new Book of Moon card. This card's kind of crazy. This guy we already saw the other day. That's not what I want. There we go. And then we got a new reptile guy and a new like earth fairy, and then also another pendulum monster. So, real quick, let's start off here with our new card, Book of Lunar Eclipse. Now that's kind of crazy.
It seemed like your most excited one.
Definitely. Here. So it's a quick play spell. You can discard one card, then target 2 face-up monsters on the field. Any 2 face-up monsters is nice. Change them to face-down defense position. Very simple, but it's a quick play spell. It's Book of Moon, but it's just double the damage. You know what I mean? You just get to potentially flip down 2 instead of 1. It does target. Be nice if it didn't target, but we'll take it nonetheless. It's really strong. I mean, we'll see. Because Book of Moon doesn't have to discard, so you do have to get rid of the extra card. But that is the one card in here that does seem like it has the most meta potential. It's just a good generic card, not even once per turn, still good. So, yeah.
Would you play it?
I mean, it depends on what you play. Mm-hmm. It depends on the deck. It depends on the meta, too. Because, like, Book of Moon's, like, randomly kind of good right now. But we just went through, like, 3 straight years of, like, Book of Moon not being that good.
So where would you fit it in, if this, like, for this deck? Or for this card?
I mean, it depends. Like, I think it's kind of cool in decks like Shadal's and Subterrors where they like their cards face down anyway. They have flip effects, so being able to like flip one of your opponent's monsters and yours is still pretty good, even if your opponent doesn't have 2 good targets. So it just becomes a little bit more versatile. Or a deck like Burning Abyss, just decks that have good generic float cards. So you discard a card, and then that card kind of pays you back in terms of resources. So you discard a Burning Abyss monster, and then that floats you into another card, so you kind of just replace it. Still pretty good.
Is that your favorite out of the bunch?
Yeah, okay. Definitely. The next guy is pretty cool, too, though, because we do have a new reptile archetype coming, and he could be something good there. This is Yamoimori. They said they'll have better translations later, but he's
the art.
Yeah, very cute. I like him a lot, too. His design's really cute. Okay. So, he says he's a water reptile, level 2 with 0/0 stats. Not very good, but whatever. Stats don't matter in 2021. You can only use his effects once per turn. His first effect, well, I guess his main effect says, you can banish this card from grave to target 1 reptile monster you control and 1 any monster your opponent controls, and then activate one of these effects. The first one is change the targeted monster to face-down defense position. So keep in mind you'd be flipping both face-down, your reptile and their monster. Not half bad. It's not a quick effect. If this was a quick effect, it'd be really interesting because then it's actual disruption. And Book of Moon is no joke because not only does it keep a monster from activating effects, but it also keeps it from being fodder for either links, exceeds, synchros, so they can't even be used as fodder as far as just being a body on field to link off or whatever off. So that's really good. But it's just not a disruption, but still can be pretty good on your own turn. And the second effect says you can destroy your targeted monster. So you destroy your reptile, and if you do, change your opponent's targeted monster's attack to 0 until the end of this turn. This one's a little less good in my opinion. Like, you lose your monster on the field just to make their monster 0/0. If it popped both, if it destroyed both, I'd be like, yeah, that's just removal. I'd take it. But it destroys one to not even out the other one, not negate it, not anything other than just make its attack 0. It could still come up. Don't get me wrong. I just think that's the weaker of the two. I think the first effect's definitely the better one to Book of Moon, both cards. So that's him. Just generic, decent reptile card. It's pretty cool. Then we move to, this name is brutal, Chick Eugene Carbon.
The W is pretty hard.
Yeah. He's an Earth Fairy. He's level 4, and I think his stats are 1,000, but it got kind of cut off by the picture, so we're not entirely sure on that just yet, but the variation won't be that meaningful regardless. He has 2 hard once per turn effects, but you can only use one of his effects once per turn. That's a different card. All right. So his first effect reads, you contribute this normal summoned card as cost to add 1 Earth Fairy monster from your deck to the hand, except for himself. That's pretty good. I mean, we don't have a ton of great Earth Fairies, but there's a couple that are actually not terrible. The problem is he has to be your normal summon, and a lot of the decent Earth Fairies we have so far in the game are cards that want to take your normal summon. So if you tribute him to search one, you can't even get that new one on the field until the next turn, which is kind of rough. So he could come up. I mean, keep in mind we have stuff like Planet Pathfinder. I was showing Gavin that just came up for me building with like Zephyrs and stuff. Very good card, but for the longest time, normal summons were so important in Yu-Gi-Oh! That Pathfinder didn't feel strong enough. But now we have multiple archetypes that don't use their normal summon. So all we need is for Konami to come up with a good Earth Fairy card that this card can search, and you can play this card in a deck that isn't too reliant on its normal summon.
Now, do you think this is going to bring normal summons back into relevance?
No. I mean, okay, so the way I explained it to Gav is that normal summons are just not as important as they used to be, but they're still good. Most decks still use them. There are just certain archetypes that don't need them via the way they play. Zephyrs are one of them. You could look... Oh, shit, my phone. Got it.
That's his midnight alarm.
Yeah. So Zephyrs don't use them. You have stuff like Eldritch literally doesn't have a normal summon in the entire deck, and it's still a very good control deck. So it just depends, but this card would need a strategy that doesn't need its normal summon too much. Its second effect also reads, if a face-up fairy you control is sent to the graveyard while this card is in grave, you can put this card back on top of your deck. If it added itself back to hand, I'd be like, okay, free card back to hand. I don't like that it puts itself on top of the deck, because then it just clogs your draw for turn. I guess if it's a good draw for turn and you have like a lot of different things you can search off of it, then that's one thing, but outside of like the perfect surrounding cast for this card, I don't see that effect being too good, but I guess it could come up if you do want to draw him for turn next turn. And then we come to the last card, which is a new Pendulum card. It's kind of interesting. This is this is Hendu Kiku Clock Arc. He's a weird looking. This is the one that wasn't with the other cards. He's a weird little dark machine guy. It's a cool design. Yeah. I'm about it. All right. So he's a dark machine pendulum monster. He's level 4 with a scale 4, which is kind of awkward. Usually scale 4s aren't good. You either want a high scale or a low scale, so that's not too good. But while you control no monsters, or all monsters you control are pendulum monsters, you can apply one of his effects depending on the pendulum zone he's in. If he's in the left column, the far left zone, you can reduce his pendulum scale by 3. And if he's in the far right column, you can raise his pendulum scale by 3. Thereby kind of just solving the problem I just said. 4 scales are really bad because they're just 2 in the middle. Depending on which scale you want to put him in, he'll just become scale 1 or scale 7, which is a higher scale and a lower scale. So he can be either. It's kind of nice just generically to be versatile like that.
So you were explaining scale monsters to me the other night? Or pendulum monsters the other night?
Yeah.
Now, wouldn't that just make him the perfect pendulum monster?
So maybe at the beginning of Pendulum Monsters, it could have been, because it means you could open him with any other high or low scale, and he can just fit the other scale requirement that you're looking for. But I think ultimately, like in 2021, you don't just need scales, you need scales that do something.
So and he lacks that.
He lacks like the extra. He gets you the scale you want, which is nice, I guess. But nowadays, you need like a scale that's also going to get you like another card after that.
Gotcha.
And that's, I think, the one part we don't see here just yet.
So each of these cards seems like they're lacking a little bit.
Yeah, I would say so. But it kind of just depends. I think they're definitely cards that, in the right strategy, they could be really good. They would need like the right surrounding cards. I don't think any of them are bad cards by design. I just think they would need the right kind of surrounding cards that make what they do specifically useful.
Now, is that infrastructure there, or is that something that's going to come in the future?
No, it's definitely not yet. Not for him. Definitely not for him, because he's the most generic one, which is why I fear a little bit more for him. Is like, I don't see necessarily a route for like an archetype to just kind of pick him up and just be like,
This is
he fits perfectly.
Player, yeah.
Right. I don't necessarily see that. I think a reptile deck. Listen, the new deck build pack reptile archetype seems to want to make use of Snake Rain. Snake Rain just lets you send 5 reptiles from deck to grave. If you just want to dump him, he's just live in grave. This new guy, right? So I think we're already. Where's my thumb go? There we go. I think this guy becomes like very interesting just as like a card to play because you can dump him so easily in that deck theoretically if Snake Rain's really good. And then he's just there and he's going to get you a free Book of Moon effect at some point during the duel, which is pretty strong in the mid-range game. And then the other guy, like we said, if any archetype comes out that's just good with Earth Fairies and they're not super reliant on normal summon already, then I think that guy's a pretty good normal summon for him because he just searches any of their monsters. Anyway, we're not even done with this card. We just read the first effect. His other scale effect is once per turn during your opponent's standby phase, you can special summon this card from your Pendulum zone. That's actually kind of cool, especially if you have something like IP Masquerade, one of those weird disruption card that needs like another monster on field. He does just jump out, so you can use him on your turn to be whatever scale you need, and then during your opponent's standby phase, he jumps on the field to either defend yourself with an extra body, be an extra body for something like IP Masquerade, or whatever. It's kind of cool. Could be part of some combos.
So he would jump out of his Pendulum zone into the monster zone?
Yeah.
That's pretty... Is that unique?
Kind of. There's a few cards that do it, but this one's specifically on your opponent's standby phase. So it's a little weird. I wish you could just do it whenever you want. That way you could, like, scale him so that you have your scales for a big Pendulum summon, then just go, oh, I've done my Pendulum summon, I don't need scales anymore, jump him out as an extra body on field.
And you can't bring him back, though?
No.
Okay.
But unfortunately, he only triggers on opponent's standby phase, so it's not just whenever you want mid-combos that you get the extra body on board.
I got you.
Then for his monster effects, he has 3 for some reason. God damn, this card's got a lot of text. His first effect says if he's special summoned to a zone that is not the center main monster zone, destroy this card. So if you're going to summon him with his second effect, he has to summon to the middle main monster zone. It's not that big of a deal. You just
leave that space.
Yeah, you just leave it open. He can't be destroyed by battle. So that's kind of a neat little protection effect, especially with the effect that he jumps out on your opponent's standby. Like I said, protecting, just getting an extra body. He's not just an extra body. He's an indestructible by battle extra body. So your opponent's going to have to use a removal card to get him off the field.
And if you know they're coming at you in battle, it's just like everything's mute.
Right. And then the third effect. Actually, I lied to you because I just read this effect. Once per turn during your opponent's end phase, you can target one card in your Pendulum zone, destroy it, and if you do, place this card back into your Pendulum zone. So he does jump back into the Pendulum zone, but he does it by destroying one of your scales that are already in there. So
you'd either have to replace the other one or get another one out on the field.
Right,
gotcha.
Right. So that's fine. I guess it could come up, but I don't expect that to be that good. But I guess theoretically he could jump out just to protect you from battle, and if your opponent never outs him, jump back into the scale. And if you need a specific scale, he kind of sets you up for that. So he's fine. I think at the end of the day, he's fine. I just, again, like if he just jumped out whenever he wanted, so you could use him as a scale and then just jump him out as an extender, that's one thing. But the fact that he doesn't, and he waits all the way to your opponent's end phase, or standby phase, he's just a little bit too slow for me overall. And he's so generic, it almost doesn't even feel like, even in the perfect Pendulum deck, like I don't see how he becomes specifically better than other generic Pendulum cards you could be playing otherwise.
So he doesn't really have a pacing advantage.
No, he's too slow. And I know the format's slower right now, but even if you're slow, you have to be impactful. If you're going to be slow, you need to be strong. He's not necessarily either, I would say.
He comes in good in the pinch, but not.
He's more of a consistency card. He's there for consistency to get you whatever play you're looking for, but he doesn't necessarily help that play be stronger, make that, your end board better, your ability to break through boards better. None of that stuff.
So out of the bunch, what's like the choice card?
Definitely the Book of Moon. I think this reptile guy could be really neat in the right strategy. What'd I do? Yeah. But it's definitely the book of Lunar Eclipse card, by far.
It's funny, because this guy right here...
He's talking about the fairy guy.
John didn't quite describe it fully but he pretty much shit on this card right before we
I didn't shit on him. I told the same exact thing. I said, right now, he's steamy garbage.
Yeah.
If Konami makes an Earth Fairy strategy that does not rely on the normal summon, this card can be the best normal summon in a really good deck.
We went through the whole list of options he could bring out.
I did look up all Earth Fairies.
And he was like, this could be... No. That one? No. No, he can't really do anything good.
Almost every target he can search needs a normal summon. Like, needs to be normal summon. So you would normal summon him using your only normal summon for the turn, tribute him to get the new card, and then have that card stuck in hand until the entire next turn.
And even when they get out on field, it's not necessarily the monster you'd want out on field.
Yeah, I mean, Earth Fairies are not... I mean, it's all light fairies. Like, some dark fairies are cool. Fairies are always light. So unless Konami goes out and makes specifically good Earth Fairy monsters, I don't see this guy being good for a while. But it's still possible.
So, looking forward, what are your predictions? Like, are they going to build on these? Like, 'cause
no.
It's kind of basic for a release.
Maybe they do because sometimes Konami is like that. I think they would at some point, but I could easily see it being years before they actually release something to work around this card. The reptile guy, like I said, hopefully that new deck build pack card archetype will immediately be able to make use of this guy. We'll see how that goes. I love his design, man. Look at it, he's so cute. And then we have.
He's my favorite. I know he doesn't do much, but he's just like.
Oh, this guy? We talked about him the other day. And then we have this card. This card's definitely the best card of the bunch. Hands down, it's going to be a secret rare. It's going to be $50, $60. And good luck getting your hands on it. But that's going to do it for us here today, guys. I know this guy ran a little long, but, Gavin and his questions.
He's my source for information, so,
yeah. All right, we're going to end it off here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more news videos from me in the future.
The freshest news.
Yeah.
Like pineapple fresh.
Yeah, like fresh out the booty hole, give it a sniff. Fresh.